You ever have that moment in life when people push you so far, you just can't take it anymore? That was me. I was minding my own business, living my life peacefully, paying my bills, keeping my property clean, and trying to stay out of trouble. But then the HOA came knocking. And trust me, once they started, they didn't stop. They wanted control. They wanted power. They wanted money. And they didn't care whose life they crushed along the way. It all started small like it always does. A letter here, a warning there, and before I knew it, my mailbox was stuffed with threats and fines. The first fine was for something so ridiculous, I almost laughed. They claimed my grass was 2 inches too tall. 2 inches. I mean, think about it. Does that really ruin anyone's life? Does that disturb anyone's peace? No, but to the HOA it was a weapon, and that was just the beginning. I thought, maybe if I fix it quickly, they'll leave me alone. I mowed the lawn that same day. I trimmed every edge. I even cleaned up the street in front of my house just to be extra cautious. But guess what? The next week, another letter showed up. This time, they said the paint on my mailbox was fading. Yes, fading paint. Apparently, that was worth another fine. And it wasn't just $50 or $100. No, they slapped me with a huge penalty, and it kept stacking. At first, I tried to be reasonable. I called them, I wrote them emails. I even went to one of their meetings. But let me tell you, those meetings are like walking into a lion's den. They sit there, all high and mighty, acting like kings and queens of the neighborhood. You try to explain yourself, and they cut you off. You try to defend yourself, and they laugh under their breath. It's not about fairness. It's about power. And the more they sense you resisting, the harder they push. The fines piled up like a mountain I couldn't climb. Every week, a new notice. Every month, a new threat. They started talking about liens, about taking my home, about dragging me to court. Can you imagine? Working hard your whole life, buying a house, and then some group of neighbors with too much time on their hands tries to steal it from you? That's the reality of many HOAs, and it was about to be mine. But here's the thing they didn't realize. I don't back down easily. I'm not the type to let bullies win. And make no mistake, that's exactly what they were. Bullies hiding behind paperwork, rules, and fake smiles. They thought I would bend. They thought I would pay. They thought they could scare me into silence. But instead, they lit a fire in me. And let me tell you, that fire burned bright. One night, after yet another threatening letter, I sat at my kitchen table with all the papers spread out in front of me. $50,000. That was the total. $50,000 in fines. For grass. For paint. For nonsense. I stared at that number and my blood boiled. My hands shook. I felt anger, frustration, but also determination. I decided that night I wasn't just going to fight them. I was going to destroy their little empire. Now, before I tell you what I did, let me give you a picture of this HOA. They weren't just some small group running things from a clubhouse. No, they had money, they had influence, and they had one prized possession that gave them status: the neighborhood golf course. Oh, yes, the golf course was their jewel. They bragged about it, showed it off to guests, and acted like it made them untouchable. It was their playground and their pride. So I thought to myself, if they can mess with me, why can't I mess with them? And that's where the idea was born. At first, it seemed impossible. How does one man take down a whole HOA? How does one person fight back against a system designed to break you? But the more I researched, the more I realized something shocking. The golf course wasn't doing as well as they made it seem. Behind the fancy green lawns and the smiling faces, the place was drowning in debt. Memberships were down, maintenance was expensive, and they were bleeding money. That's when it hit me. I didn't need to fight their rules. I didn't need to argue in their meetings. I didn't even need to pay those ridiculous fines. All I had to do was buy their golf course. Sounds crazy, right? But the crazier it sounded, the more sense it made. If I could own their precious gem, I'd own their pride. And if I owned their pride, I owned them. The next few weeks, I became obsessed. I dug into public records. I made phone calls. I spoke to realtors and bankers. Every spare moment, I was hunting for a way to make this happen. And the more I uncovered, the clearer it became. The HOA was vulnerable. They didn't expect anyone to come after them. They thought they were the hunters, not the hunted. And that's what made it so sweet. When the opportunity finally came, I didn't hesitate. I signed the papers, transferred the money, and just like that, the golf course that gave them power, status, and pride was mine. Let that sink in for a second. The same people who fined me for 2 inches of grass. The same people who tried to squeeze $50,000 out of me. The same people who threatened to take my home now had to live with the fact that I owned their kingdom. But I didn't stop there. Oh no, buy it was just step one. Because I didn't buy it to play golf. I didn't buy it to join their little club. I bought it to shut it down. And when I closed those gates for the last time, the look on their faces was priceless. But wait, that's just the beginning. Because when you take something powerful away from people who are used to control, they don't just get angry, they get desperate. And their desperation only fueled my fire even more. When I locked the gates of that golf course, it wasn't just about shutting down a piece of land. It was about sending a message so loud, so clear, that every single person in that HOA felt in their bones. You don't push people around without consequences. You don't bleed your neighbors dry and expect them to stay quiet forever. The morning after I closed it, chaos broke loose. Phones rang nonstop. Board members stormed around like angry bees. Neighbors gathered in small groups, whispering, pointing, wondering how in the world I had pulled it off. The people who once smirked at me in meetings now couldn't even look me in the eye. And honestly, that was the sweetest victory I had ever tasted. You see, for years, they used fear as their weapon. They believed that threats, fines, and rules made them untouchable. But in reality, their whole empire was built on something fragile: pride. And when I tore that pride away, their power crumbled like sand slipping through their fingers. At first, they tried to negotiate. They sent letters, emails, even lawyers. They said things like, "We can work something out," and "Surely you don't want to destroy something so valuable for the community." Oh, suddenly I was part of their community. Suddenly they remembered I existed. Where was that kindness when they slapped me with $50,000 in fines? Where was that fairness when they threatened my home? No, it was too late for peace. Because here's the truth. Bullies only understand one language: strength. And when you stand up to them, when you hit back harder than they ever imagined, that's when they finally learn. So I ignored their begging. I ignored their offers. I didn't buy their golf course to play nice. I bought it to prove a point. Days turned into weeks, and the once proud golf course became a ghost town. The grass that they once demanded be cut to perfection grew wild. The sprinklers stopped running. The sound of golf carts and laughter disappeared, replaced by silence. And every time a board member drove past those empty gates, they were reminded of the one thing they hated the most. They weren't in control anymore. And let me tell you, that loss of control drove them crazy. Some of them tried to rally neighbors against me. They spread rumors, called me selfish, said I was destroying the community. But here's the thing, a lot of neighbors secretly hated the HOA too. They were tired of being pushed around, tired of stupid fines, tired of being treated like children in their own homes. So when the board tried to turn people against me, it backfired. Instead of blaming me, people started asking, why did the HOA let it come to this? Why did they push him so far? That's when I knew I had truly won. Because it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every single person who had ever felt powerless under an HOA. Every homeowner who had ever been fined for a silly reason. Every family who had been threatened. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for all of us. And the irony? The same golf course that once gave them pride now stood as a symbol of their failure. But here's the twist. I didn't keep it forever. After months of watching them squirm, after months of making them feel the way they had made me feel, I made my final move. I sold the land. Not to another HOA. Not to some fancy developer who would build another golf course. No, I sold it to someone who had plans that would change everything. affordable housing, a community park, places that actually serve people, not just the elite few who sat on that HOA board. That was my real victory. Because in the end, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And justice, my friend, tastes even sweeter than victory. Now, when I drive by that land, I don't see a golf course anymore. I see homes filled with families. I see kids laughing in the park. I see life where there used to be arrogance. And every time I smile, because I know the HOA can never erase what happened. They can never undo the fact that the man they tried to crush became the man who crushed them. And maybe you've been there too. Maybe not with an HOA, but with someone who thought they could control you. Someone who thought they could bully you, silence you, break you down. If you ever face that, then you know how it feels to stand up and finally say, enough. That's what this story is really about. Not just one man, one HOA, or one golf course. It's about power. It's about courage. It's about refusing to let anyone take away your peace, your dignity, or your freedom. And I want you to remember this. You have that power too. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be powerful. All you need is the courage to fight back, the patience to outsmart them, and the fire to never quit. So the next time someone tries to push you around, tries to break you, tries to make you feel small, remember my story. Remember that even the strongest bullies can fall. And remember that sometimes the sweetest revenge is not just winning, but building something better out of their failure. Because at the end of the day, justice isn't given. It's taken. And I promise you this. If I can do it, you can too. So tell me, what would you do if someone tried to take everything from you? Would you bow down or would you rise up? The choice is yours.